It's Sunday, September 24th, 2023. I was interested in cooperage, but I didn't know how to cut the staves, especially. I think the sides of the vertical sides of the staves should be slanted, cut slanted, so that next stave to the target stave can be like a concave, curved inward to the center, so that next stave and next stave behind them collectively form a circular form, so that all the stave can be curved toward the center of the cylinder. Let's find out if that is true. This article is from Lodi Wine, California. So lodiwine.com, and I will try to read the article aloud so that I can speak good English. I will focus on pronunciation, and also I'll pick up knowledge and learn something about from this article. Yes, I am interested in working in the USA after 5 years' time, because I have to retire in 5 years' time, and the cooperage sounds good. Yes, I work for Korea Telecom KT, the number one carrier in Korea, but when time comes, you have to jump the ship, jump the wagon, and switch to next better one. So I would be interested in working for other telecom company in the US, but if that's not true, impossible, I wouldn't mind working for the cooperage too. Letters from Lodi. An insightful and objective look at viticulture, there's wine culture, viticulture, and winemaking from the Lodi appellation and the growers and vintners behind these crafts. So viticulture and vintners, told from the perspective of multi-award winning wine journalist Randy Caparoso. So the article is prepared by Randy Caparoso. We learn such expressions as viticulture and vintners, right? Appellation, that's a word. The Lodi appellation and the growers. July 6th, 2021, Randy Caparoso, Oak Barrels, Part 4. So there are 3 more articles before this. Step-by-step visual of how barrels are coopered. That's what I'm talking about. I want the close-up visual of how barrels are coopered. At Tonnelleli O in Benicia, California, raised barrels are moved from fire to execute the bending of oak staves into the classic shape of a Bordeaux-style barrique. So those are called raised staves, right? Staves are now raised. So let's remember the word raised barrel or raised barrels. Moved from fire to fire, not just one, but from fire to fire. So, and they are called staves into the classic, not classical. Koreans get mixed them together. A classic, the important thing is classic, not classical. But Koreans think that classic should be classical. No, classical means old, like a classical dynamics of Newton, not relative Einstein relative dynamics. Is a classical. Classic means like a Buick Classic golf course, the number one, like a signature dish, a flagship store, something that represents the rest. Classic, standard kind of the classic shape of Bordeaux-style barrique. Continued from Oakbarrel's Part 3, French and American Civiculture and Oak Seasoning. Civiculture. Cooper's ancient art, that necessity is the mother of invention, was an adage that probably predated even Plato, born around 425 BC, who wrote that down for posterity. So did wine barrels. In terms of predating Plato, gazillions of wine lovers, like a gazillions, but here, gazillions, K, usually it's G, gazillions, but in this case, gazillions of wine lovers today would agree that if there was ever a great invention that goes back further than recorded history, it's probably the oak barrel, a timeless, elegantly composed piece of craftsmanship, essential to the quality of so many of the world's greatest wines, not to mention whiskeys, brandies, and fortified wines. I wonder what are fortified wines? Maybe fortified with the flavors. Let me go horizontal here and check out the photo. French oak, Quercus petroca, American oak, Quercus ovba, CT, convention toasted hoops, galvanized steel, American barrel, and French barrel, barrel size typical, Bordeaux star type 225 liters, that's a lot, 59.43 gallons. A cognac type 300 liters or 79.25 gallons. 1 gallon is almost 3 liters, but less, like a 2.5, right? 2.5 or 2.5 80 wait a minute, 1 gallon is like 3.5 liters. Toasting levels typical, toasting, scorching or searing level, bright, medium plus heavy. It is called croze, chime, branding, head or chime hoop, clavis, rivet, French hoop. So third one is called French hoop, but first hoop is called head or chime hoop, right? Close to the head. Stave, that's the one wooden structure. Stave joint, exactly. Joint should be waterproof, right? Alcohol proof. Bilge hoop. The fourth one is called bilge hoop. And the hole in the middle of the stave is called bung hole. Bung. And the bung is the cap. White silk cone is called bung. Bilge, widest part of the barrel. Bilge. So it doesn't have the hoop because that's why it is the widest part of the barrel. So closer, chime, branding, head, chime loop, clavis, quarter hoop. Okay, there's quarter hoop, riveted, stave, bilge hoop, stave joint, bunghole, bung, white silk cone, bilge, a widest part of the barrel. Got it. Barrel parts and typical toasting levels, Wikipedia. When Romans began trading with the people of neighboring Gaul, that's French people, around Plato's time, these Celtic tribes were already utilizing oak barrels to transport their beer and other goods. The beauty of the barrel is its shape, rounded in the middle, with a center bulge that is technically called a bulge, right? Bilge. It is the curvature of the barrel that helps distribute the stress of large amounts of weight, liquid or otherwise, a fully filled, average-sized 225-liter wine barrel weighs over 600 pounds. Wow, that's a lot. Or just under a third of a ton, and produces about 300 bottles of wine. 600 pounds and 300 bottles of wine, 225-liter wine barrel. 225-liter wine barrel is about 600 pounds and produces 300 bottles of wine. One of the advantages of a barrel's bilge is that the shape allows one person to roll and turn it in any direction with little effort. And the oval shape also allowed barrels to be easily stacked. Most likely it was the Celtic coopers who first mastered the art of crafting these practically designed containers from timber growing in forests throughout Europe. European white oak was, and still is, the ideal wood because it is soft enough to be bent into curved shapes, yet tight-grained enough to furnish a watertight seal. That's good expression. Watertight seal. To furnish a 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 watertight seal. Tight-grained. So let me go horizontal here to study the photo. Cooperage, shaping staves for a wine barrel. Hollowing, right? Hollowing. Can I get a better resolution photo? A baking, hollowing, backing, dolgurger, I don't know. Tapering, beveling, right? Beveling. Excavate, what the fuck? Top view, inclination. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Inclination. We need inclination. Side view, right? Bunghole, crow's groove, lateral view, crow's bevel. Yeah, bevel. Double bevel or single bevel. Head, lateral view, head assembly, top view, head assembly, top view. Straw, they insert straw. Head pin and hole, stave assembly. Groom to oval shape. Burger. Groom to oval shape. Burger, I don't know. Shaping terminology for barrel coopering, Wikipedia. For centuries, of course, the coopering of barrels was done entirely by hand. The hoops holding the oak staves were originally wooden, really. After galvanized steel came into usage in the late 1700s, metal hoops added to the durability. Because of the sheer amount of experience needed to master essential steps such as the precise tapering and bending of staves to create consistently shaped barrels, coopering was a craft mastered after years of apprenticeship and practice. For many years, coopers were also born into the trade, and their knowledge and skills were passed down through generations of families. For this pictorial, we visited Tonnelleli O in the North Bay city of Benicia, California, where we watched Master Cooper Quinn Roberts and his team craft 225-liter Bordeaux barrels, the classic barrique used to age red wines vinified from grapes like Cabernet Sauvignon, Cabernet Sauvignon, vinified, Merlot and Malbec, vinified. While, as you would expect, coopers such as Roberts now utilize technology and machinery to perfect certain stages of the coopering process. All the essential work is still done by hand with a feel wrought by years of experience, pretty much in the same time-honored ways established well over 2,000 years ago. That's mallet. Wrought by years of experience, wrought a feel with a feel, wrought by with a feel, wrought by years of experience, with a feel, wrought by years of experience. A cooper's hammer, one of the tools that has been pretty much unchanged over the past 2,000 years, with temporary hoops of galvanized steel utilized during the shaping of barrels. That's galvanized steel, and the hammer looks like a mallet. The coopering process, oak stave preparation and cutting. Long before the French oak destined for the barrels coopered at Tonnelleli O's arrived at the cooperage this past June, the staves were cut to the correct length, width, and thickness for the production of 225-liter Bordeaux barrels, Bitic, and then left to sit outdoors, exposed to the seasonal elements for over 3 years, sometimes 2 years, I think, for over 3 years. Left to sit outdoors. Come on, man. What the? Here. Then left to sit outdoors, exposed to the seasonal elements. Then left to sit outdoors, exposed to the seasonal elements. Then left to sit outdoors, exposed to the seasonal elements. For over 3 years, undergoing its seasoning process. As Mr. Roberts explains, the purpose of seasoning is to dry the wood. Because wood shrinks as it dries, you can't make barrels that are structurally sound using wood with moisture content above 15%. Really, you can't make barrels that are structurally sound using wood with moisture content above 15%. As staves shrink, the joints between the staves open and they no longer form a watertight seal. Between the staves open, okay, I got it. They no longer form a watertight seal. they furnish watertight seal, right? But they no longer form a watertight seal. Once the wood has completed its seasoning, lasting anywhere from 2 to 5 years, from 2 to 5 years, 3 to 4 years is typical for top quality barrels. From 2 to 5 years, man. There's typo, 2 to 5 years. 3 to 4 years is typical for top quality barrels and is delivered to the cooperage. Each individual stave needs to be cut so that the middle of each stave is slightly wider than its ends. This will create the oval shape of the barrel, right? Oval shape, according to Roberts. Regarding the tapered shape of the staves, the ratio of the width of the stave in the middle and its width at the ends is referred to as the drop-off tapering, which remains constant for each barrel type. What changes is the angle of the sides of each stave. The angle must be reduced below 90 degrees for all staves, but since narrow staves constitute a smaller fraction of the 330-degree shape of the barrel, their angle must be slightly close to 90 degrees than the angle on wider staves. Interesting. What changes is the angle of the sides of each stave. The angle must be reduced below 90 degrees for all staves, but since narrow staves constitute a smaller fraction of the 300-degree shape of the barrel, their angle must be slightly closer to 90 degrees than the angle on wider staves. Right? See here, this one is very wide stave. This is narrow stave. So the angle of the sides of these staves should be close to 90 degrees, while the angles of these wider stave sides should be like 85 degrees. This one maybe 89 degrees, close to 90 degrees. What you also see in the photo above is that each stave is selected and arranged so that wider staves are alternated with narrow staves, explains Roberts. The reason for this is to avoid placing more than a few staves of the same width adjacent to each other. Too many narrow staves in a row will cause that part of the barrel to bow excessively during bending, and too many wide staves in a row will cause that part of the barrel to remain too flat. Bow, like a bow, right? Bow, like an arrow and bow. Bow excessively during bending, and too many wide staves in a row will cause that part of the barrel remain too flat. To maintain symmetry of the cylindrical shape of the barrel, the widths need to balance each other out. To achieve this symmetry, this is where Tonnelleli O takes advantage of technology in the way of what is called an EDJE machine, which trims each stave at a correct angle, but in different widths. In French, the letters EDJE refer to the 4 tasks of the machine: E for écoutille, trimming; D for dolage backing or backplaning, and J for jointing, E for evidage, hollowing. The photo below gives you a glimpse of the EDJ machine's control panel. Most of the numbers displayed are the machine settings for things like stave thickness, length, etc., according to specific barrel being produced. Raising the barrels. The raising stage of a barrel coopering starts at a raising table, which is adjustable, explains Roberts. This is when individual staves going into a single barrel are laid out. Wider staves next to narrow staves. The distance from one end to the other equals the diameter of the barrel at the center of or bilge. Wait a minute. The distance from one end to the other equals the diameter of the barrel at the center or bilge. Distance from one end to the other equals the diameter of barrel at the center of a bilge. Really? A typical 225-liter Bordeaux barrel is about 67 centimeters in diameter, so the length of the table circumference equals pi multiplied by diameter. So 3.14 multiplied by 3.14 x 67 centimeters is equal to 210 centimeters. The diameter of the 228-liter Burgundy barrel is 73 centimeters. So in that case, the length of the table is moved out to 3.14 multiplied by 73 equals 229 centimeters. That's bilge, right, at the center. Very big. So distance from one end to the other equals the diameter of the barrel at the center of bilge. Really? When he finishes laying out the staves for a barrel, he writes 3 pieces of information on it. 1. The production order number. 2. The number of staves in the barrel. 3. The barrel's sequential number. Production order number. The number of staves in the barrel. And 3. The barrel's sequential number. While a bunghole will eventually go into one of the wider staves, the location of the bung will be chosen later, following the barrel toasting. The positioning of the staves within a temporary hoop below is the actual raising stage, raising stage. At Tonnelleli O, this is aided by an apparatus called the raising machine, which helps hold the staves in place while the hoops are hammered firmly in place. Bending, mise en rows. The next stage, the most dramatic of the coopering process, is what the French call mise en rows. When each raised barrel, the rose, is warmed for about 25 minutes to make the straight staves pliable enough to be bent into the barrel's characteristic ovoid shape, cylindrical, ovoid shape. Explains Roberts. With a single fire as the heat source, it would only be possible to bend one barrel every 25 minutes, but we can increase our output by adding fires. The more fires we use, the shorter the interval between each barrel bending. You see the barrels being moved whenever a barrel exits the warming cycle after being bent, and another barrel enters it to start the warming process. You see the barrels being moved whenever a barrel exits the warming cycle after being bent, and another barrel enters it to start warming. So the barrels are moved from fire to fire. The bending cycle is 25 minutes. Watering the staves further softens the wood fibers to help render them flexible enough to bend. Watering is part of the stage of the coopering process referred to as warming. So they spray the staves with water. It is called warming. The firewood used for the open fires during the mise en rows and toasting stages are a byproduct of the stave jointing process. The ends of the staves trimmed to length in the stave jointer. The ends of the staves trimmed to length in the stave jointer. In the next step, the now pliable staves of the barrel are bent into the shape of a barrel with the help of a bending machine, ovoid shape. The fire pot in the center of the machine continues to heat the staves during the bending to facilitate the process, explains Roberts. The staves are bent by pressing them together at the bottom. A temporary hoop is then buckled around the bottom of the barrel to hold the staves in place. When the barrel is removed from the machine, more hoops are tightened around the bottom half of the barrel, and the temporary hoop is removed to be used on the next barrel to be bent. The newly bent barrel then moves to the toasting fires. Tonnelleli O Master Cooper Queen Roberts left monitors the toasting process once the Bordeaux-shaped barrels have completed their bending stage. Toasting, boozing. Once the barrels are being bent into shape, Once the barrels are bent into shape, I think the bean should be omitted here, grammatic error. Once the barrels are bent into shape, the next step is a crucial one, the toasting process or boozing. At Tonnelleli O, Master Cooper himself handles this task, adding oak chips to the fire as needed to maintain a very slow and patient firing of the wood on the inner surface of the barrel in order to attain a precise amount of toast, which will directly affect the organoleptic qualities of the wines that will eventually come in contact during the barrel aging process. For these particular barrels, Mr. Roberts was monitoring the exact amount of heat, 180 degrees Fahrenheit, over the exact amount of time to attain a brandy toast. That is what most cooperages simply call light toast, requested by one particular California winery, paying for these ultra-premium custom-coopered French oak barrels. These barrels are destined to go into a $275 per bottle Cabernet Sauvignon program. The finished barrel in the photo below on the right. Yeah, very lightly toasted. Closer, grooves and bunghole. Following the toasting with the barrel, wait a minute, so one bottle is $275. These barrels are designed to go into $275 per bottle Cabernet Sauvignon program. The finished barrel in the photo below on the right. Closer, grooves and bunholes. Following the toasting with the barrel still fitted with its temporary hoops, Tonnelleli O utilizes a machine called closer. Roberts tells us the closer automatically drills the bunghole in the center of the barrel, and it cuts both ends of the barrel in various ways to create three features. One, the chime or the chamfered end of the barrel. Two, the howl, a concave cut below the chime. Three, the closer, which is a narrow groove that holds the head at the end of the barrel. Closer, howl, a chime or the chamfered end of the barrel. Chamfered end of the barrel. Okay. Two, howl, a concave cut below. Concave cut below the chime. And the closer, which is a narrow groove that holds the head at the end of the barrel. Chiming, barrel heads. The chiming involves the fitting of two heads onto the ends of the barrels. The heads are composed of staves cut with tongue and groove sides. Picture below. Yep. Tongue and groove sides, according to Roberts. Cut with the tongue. Groove sides here. Yeah, groove size. We use a machine called the head rounder, which cuts the head squares into circles and bevels the edge of the circle. Yeah, bevel here. Yeah, this is the angle, slanted side bevel, not square, not direct, but it's called bevel. Just like a knife edge is called bevel. Bevels the edge of the circle. The pointed edge of the head, or basil will fit into the closer of the barrel, which is the narrow channel that we cut into the ends of the barrel below the chime and howl. In this photo, we are cutting a French oak head of 22 millimeter thickness going to chateau-style barrels. Continues Roberts on the photos below. On the left, he is particularly tightening a head hoop around the end of the barrel after inserting the head. The tightening is started manually and finished by a machine. On the right, you see him wrapping an unfastened head hoop around the barrel to determine its size before punching the holes and pressing rivets to fasten it. On the right, you see him wrapping an unfastened head hoop around the barrel. Unfastened, right? Rivet. Unriveted head hoop around the barrel to determine its size before punching holes and pressing rivets to fasten it. So it is called unfastened. punching holes into the galvanized steel hoops that will be permanently affixed to the barrel. This machine below is called the hoop press. It tightens the hoops on the barrel by grasping the barrel in its arms and pressing down on the top edge of the hoop. Its advantages over the equivalent manual task are greater accuracy, greater speed, and increased safety. And for the final part of the chiming stage, Tonnelleli O utilizes a machine called the head and chime auto sender. One tool sends the head, the other sends the chime. One tool sends the head and the other sends the chime. So here, this one sends the chime part inside of this, the other side of this galvanized hoop, and this one is sending the head. Finishing. Each barrel needs to be checked for leakage. Roberts explains how this is done. We add 2 gallons of water to a barrel. 1 gallon was 3.5 liters, so 2 gallons is like 7 liters of water to a barrel, and pressurize it with air to start a mechanical agitation cycle that will rotate the barrel to coat the interior surface with a film of water. If there are any escape pathways for the water through the wood grain or the stave joints, the air pressure will push the water out of the barrel and create a leak. If a leak is detected through the wood grain, it will be sealed by spraying atomized food-grade paraffin on the surface of the wood at the origin of the leak. The paraffin will be drawn into the open wood pores and seal them off. Oh, I see it. So they use the paraffin, which doesn't sound good. Yep. If a leak is detected through the wood grain, it will be sealed by spraying atomized food grade. So it's a food grade, not industry grade. Food grade paraffin on the surface of the wood at the origin of the leak. At the origin of the leak. Paraffin on the surface of the wood at the origin of the leak. Let's remember the sentence. It will be sealed by spraying atomized food-grade paraffin on the surface of the wood at the origin of the leak. It will be sealed by spraying atomized food-grade paraffin on the surface of the wood at the origin of the leak. The paraffin will be drawn into the open wood pores and seal them off. Interesting. So they spray food-grade paraffin on the outside of the wood at the origin of the leak, right? And the paraffin will be drawn into the open wood pores and seal them off. To track every barrel, a serial number is manually imprinted in the chime of each barrel. I think he's doing some imprinting, this guy, chime. This part is called chime. Yeah. A laser inscriber is utilized to etch on the barrel head, 1, the cooperage's Tonnelleli O logo, 2, the customer's winery's logo, 3, the barrel specifications on the head of a barrel. barrel specification, like a 225-liter barrel, diameter of the bilge, or the length from the chamber to chamber, from the chime to chime, which is the same size as the diameter of the bilge. Engraver, it is called engraver, right? A laser engraver to etch on the barrel head, to etch, engraver. On this particular barrel below, coopered by Tonnelleli O, the barrel specifications are translated as such, as this, or as such. Foret Domaniel de Bers, MDST 2021, 48 months, 225 liters, 25 millimeters. Medium slow toast, MDST, coopered in 2021, 48 months of seasoning, 225-liter capacity, Bordeaux barrel, 25 millimeter stave thickness, 27 millimeter stave thickness. Finished Bordeaux barrels with special ordered blue steel hoops, specially ordered I don't know which is correct. Special ordered. I think you gotta be adverb. Specially ordered blue steel hoops. For a final primarily ornamental touch, wooden hoops made from the branches of chestnut trees are wrapped around the ends of the barrel chime. Mr. Roberts tells us these ends are fastened by wrapping a small filament of metal wire around the ends. The ends of the hoops are then wrapped with wicker as another decorative element. There is no glue used, but the hoops are nailed into the barrel to prevent them from falling off. Okay. Interesting. It's the ornamental touch. For a final, primarily ornamental touch, wooden hoops made from the branches of chestnut trees are wrapped around the ends of the barrel. Mr. Roberts tells us the ends are fastened by wrapping a small filament of metal wire around the ends. The ends of the hoops are then wrapped with wicker as another decorative element. There is no glue used, but the hoops are nailed into the barrel to prevent them from falling off. So 2 wooden ornamental hoops are added. One is the chestnut ornamental hoop. Then it is fastened by the metal filament. Then wicker wrap is added. French as well as American oak barrels shrink wrapped and ready for shipment in Tonnelleli. Shrink wrapped, right? Shrink wrapped. That's interesting. It enhances the marketability. It makes like the barrels are really new, shiny, spitty, clean, squeaky clean. A final look at a French oak barrel being toasted at Tonnelleli. Interesting article. So from this article, we encountered such expressions as bilge, vinified, vintners, viticulture, right? Viticulture, vintners, vinified, chamfered, cut slightly at an angle, chamfered, chime, groove, close, diameter, staves, bent, watering, left to sit outdoors, the food grade paraffin will be air sprayed onto the wood at the root of the origin of the leak. Food grade paraffin will be sprayed at atomized food grade paraffin will be sprayed on the wood outside where the origin of the leak is, etched, engraver etched on the head, and so on. Well, that's it. Thanks for listening. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.